So we are live, and I hope I can talk today of excitement. As you can see, I'm really emotional because I have a really special guest today. In um in January, I was on Pinterest and I discovered about ancestral healing. And I just had this spark inside of me, and that I was like, I need to find more about this because I've been a business coach for I was a business coach for 2 years, and I had problems with my money mindset. It was really hard for me to get clients, to overcome a certain income. And I am a hypnotherapist. I worked with hypnotherapy, with conscious healers, with a lot of energy healing. But I feel like, okay, maybe this is not about me. Maybe it's something from my past. So I got in, for I think 48 hours in a row, I followed Bridget Nielsen's all materials on YouTube and Pinterest and on her account, Instagram account. And I was like, wanting to find more because it was really speaking to my soul. So
Mm.
today I have her as a guest in my podcast, and I'm really excited about that. She is an intuitive healer and a fellow human. She really cutely presented her before the podcast, and I welcome Bridget today, and tell us a little bit more about you and your work.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be here with you and everyone listening. Yeah, I wanted to say fellow human because I'm not into titles. I'm kind of like the more I go on my path, the more I'm just like humbly open to everything that unfolds. So, for the past almost 15 years, I've been definitely uh, focused a lot on ancestral healing and ancestral empowerment, because it is such a huge part of what influences our everyday lives. So that's been a big theme, but I do all kinds of different intuitive healing work and art and coaching and live retreats and facilitation to just really empower people to be their best selves, their most holistic, fully expressed selves.
Oh, I love that so much. I found your work to be really powerful. As you said, you worked with a lot of modalities. I saw that you did also trauma, I think, trauma work. You work with somatics, but there are things that are beyond our awareness and beyond our consciousness, and these are things that you we cannot grasp with the conscious mind. Like for a lifetime you can work with a pattern in therapy, or saying affirmations, doing journaling, trying to talk yourself out of that thing, but you still see that challenge showing up in your reality, and it feels so frustrating because it feels like it's something wrong with you. Basically, it feels like you are different than other people because you look around you and you see how others solve their problems in a shorter time. So I feel like these things that are not um, like accessible to our consciousness, to our conscious mind, and things that are really hard to overcome, and things that are really deep into our subconscious mind. These are things usually that are not even ours, and this is the core teaching that I got from you, Bridget, when I listened to all your materials online. So I would love, this was what I summarized about ancestral healing. And what is your perspective after so many years of working in the field? What is ancestral healing for you?
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. I'm glad that that's one of the main nuggets that you got from it. Is it's like this isn't mine, and for someone listening, that might be like, oh, that's just an instant availability to just bypass and be like, it's not mine, and not take responsibility. And I really appreciate in this healing world, and it sounds like in all the personal work that you've done, is it's like I'm wanting to take responsibility. I'm wanting to make this change. I'm like dedicated to that, but there comes a point where it's this and that, in the sense of with ancestral healing particularly, what happens and the energy that creates it is that we're made of genetics, and those genetics have energy, which is like morphogenetics, which you could just say is like an energetic field. that we come in with, that we are imbued with, our organs, our blood, our bones, like our energetic fields. And that prompts everything, not quite everything, but a lot of what we think, what we feel, our beliefs that are running through us, in addition to cultural programming, in addition to quite a few other variables. But ancestral is one of the main conduits of influence. And because this happens at the moment of conception and gestation, uh, when we start growing up, we're like, oh, this is just me. This is just like my thought. This is just my issue. And what I've discovered along the way, as well as helping so many other people and witnessing so many other people, is like, no, it's not. But it's so enmeshed that we don't know that it isn't us, and we can't differentiate that. And so that becomes quite disempowering, or it can become just like that roadblock. Why it's like, why can't I fix this, or what's wrong with me? Like those kinds of like lines. And it's like, well, is it actually yours? Is it actually you? And that's a really good place to start. And it's not going to bypass, because we're actually going straight into us, and we're going straight into our line, and it's helping everything and everyone. So it still
Hmm.
requires work, it still requires responsibility, because we're responsible for, to a good degree, for the lineage that we were born into. So in that sense, it's really taking accountability for the agreements and the soul template that we decided to come into, which family, and what are the themes of that energy.
Mm-hmm. And I feel it's so hard, first of all, because of the ego, because we like to identify ourselves with like with what we know, with what we are aware of, and because of control. Like if I say this comes from my ancestors, then I'm leaving control and I'm surrendering to this unknown thing. And also because like this field of ancestral healing and in general healing, like energy work is more considered of this like area that you don't have so many studies. And but these are only like misconceptions. Like I remember from one of your examples that you gave in one of your videos was that um, studies show that from like nephews of the generations that were in war were having trauma war, and they were able to study this. Like it wasn't that only they had like different emotions and feelings where they were afraid of violence, or they had nightmares with the war or things like that, but they can actually like scientifically proven that we have these things inherited in our bodies. This trauma lives in our bodies. So that's more if you want to get into the studies and see with your own eyes that this is not woo, this is like science and it can be proved. And I love the last part that you said with you're not only taking responsibility for yourself but also for others, because it's like this cycle. When you heal previous generations, you also heal yourself, and you heal the future generations as well, because you stop this cycle of the victim role or the money mindset, like the scarcity mindset, all these mentalities that ran in your family for ages and they've been passed down. So if you don't heal them, you will give them away to your children as well. And that's my main, like as a healer, that's my core theme of why I want to heal, not only for myself but for my future children and for the past generations that maybe they didn't have the tools, they didn't have like therapists on Instagram to get into and just click on a profile and talk with somebody. It's really warm inside to have this perspective that you're not only healing yourself but you're healing all these cycles of all these generations. And I love that. And how does it affect our relationship with money in particular to have ancestral healing trauma? For me, it was the scarcity mindset. I never had enough money, enough love, enough time. it wasn't never enough for me what I had, and that really created this negative mindset where I couldn't appreciate when I had more. I couldn't appreciate the love that I received, or the attention, the care. Or when I received more money, I was still focusing, but I need to get on this goal, and I need to have even more money and to be even more successful. And this was for me something that I inherited from my grandparents that were in the Second World War, and they experienced this deep scarcity around. They didn't have food, they didn't have, where to sleep, clothes to wear, and all these things. And I feel work by my work in this field, I feel that it's coming from that part. And how is your perspective on this?
Yeah, good insights. You've been a really good student of ancestral mind. I'm
Thank
like,
you.
yes, this is very good work.
Thank
Uh,
you so much.
of course. Yeah, it can. I think it influences each individual person very differently because we all have very different paths. We have very different lineages. We have very different histories that we're coming from. So some people can have, ancestry that say we're like really wealthy, and they just like, oh, like it just continues to like come to them even if they don't have trust funds. Like it just is like a part of them. Like abundance is a part of their field. And then it can go the other way where parent or like, great grandparents did naughty things. And then you don't want to
Mm.
actually hold wealth, or you don't, you like flip to try and like help what went wrong, and like be that counterbalance to that energy. And then there's of course like the scarcity that's like rampant because of all of the different like famine and war and that have touched, most cultures like around the world. And so that energy can be, yeah, very pervasive. And so it's really just like touching on and getting access to what those moments of famine or, like of lack of scarcity were, and then realizing that you don't have to carry those on. Like it isn't wartime. And so it's kind of like updating like our energetic morphogenetic software program or something where it's like, all right, current energy, current self, current generation, this is no longer like World War II. And so this is what's happening now. And like there's different, of course, healing processes to consciously do that, to override and rewrite what it means for you. Because I think the biggest thing around like abundance and money is our ancestors never wanted, they wanted the ultimate best for us. That's why they sacrificed so much. That's why they did everything and went through everything that they went through was for us in this moment. And they want us to be successful. They want us to have all the resources and live with them in balance and harmony, of course, with the earth and with each other. But they want that for us. But sometimes there's stuck points that those old programs are writing continuously in us, and so that can be very influential. And I think accessing, one thing that's just so beautiful is accessing the treasures of our lineage, because often we think of like the hardships are definitely profound, like what they've overcome, and that is a part of our strength which we can absolutely draw upon. And also there's certain nuanced treasures, there's certain nuanced gifts that our lineages have. And they might not be like financial per se, but there can be
Mhm.
like different, psychic abilities, or there can be different virtues and values and principles that are like inherent, like within our female line, within our male line, that we can start to receive from. And I think receiving from that well of what we already are is a part of then accessing the greater stream of abundance that we innately, naturally have frequency access to. And so, even though it doesn't seem directly correlated, starting to receive what we are, what we have, what we can draw upon, that's coming from behind us, like from our ancestors, that's already in our field, is a great place to start. It's like a foundation to build upon, to reset this template of more abundance and wealth and success.
Mhm. I love that so much because, but I feel like first release the, you need to release the blocks, and then you can ask the treasures. Because in the beginning, when you find, like, I feel it's like the process of the processing is like this. You find that you may have some inherited traumas or limiting beliefs from your ancestors. Then there is this hate or anger towards, oh my god, why did you give this to me? Then you work with that, you release those blocks, you heal those things, and then you access the gifts as well, because now you don't have those dark filters, but you are open to release the good. And it was for me like when I created a hypnosis based on like I summarize, I took notes from what you said on your videos, and I created a hypnosis out of all that information. And when I had that information, first it was like more darkish. I released the trauma, identify where I have this scarcity beliefs and all those things. But then I saw like how my grandparents, even though they were in war and they gave me this scarcity mindset, they also gave me the capacity to be entrepreneur, because they managed to, sell everything and managed to make money out of everything, and like like just survive in the best way they could. And I got this tendency of wanting to create a business from them being able to overcome their scarcity mindset in their own way. And it's amazing to see how you can receive like lifelong generational gifts, like being an entrepreneur or seeing the good thing even when it's the worst, or different mindsets and beliefs and emotions from your previous ancestors. It's really a deeply touching work. Like once you start reading more and doing a meditation or a hypnosis, and I know you have a course is on my wish list to buy it, where you have a lot of tools about how you can work with ancestors. And you say some tools in your videos as well, like writing on a piece of paper, like communicating with them. And there are a lot of tools, and this work really can, let's say, quantum leap you, like can see some effects you never saw before in your life. And how is someone that is like listening to us or watching us right now can discover if they have their own ancestral mm, healing to do? What are some signs of ancestral traumas, let's say, if you have, for you to realize?
Yeah, yeah, great question. I mean, one of the most, I guess, safe for the mind indicators are inherited like diseases or whatever, where it's like I have this thing that's passed on, like this cancer or this like syndrome or like those kinds of things. That's like the just easiest, most obvious thing that whatever that deeper energetic source wound is has physically manifested and is now continuing on so blaringly that it is physically manifesting and passing on generationally. So that's like a great one to be like, is there something passed down in my that I need to look at? And so that's a great way. That's like very cut and dry. As far as other ways, gosh, it's those pieces that are just like I've tried everything
Mm-hmm.
and I just can't figure out why this isn't shifting. You've done, like you said, every meditation, every journal exercise, and it's just like it's not shifting. So I think those things that just feel very like entrenched are a good one. And just anything that I mean, you can always kind of like, I mean, we all know generally, not maybe not all of us, but generally about where we come from. There's some stories trickling around of like our grandparents or this or that. And if there were some significant things, which most people have,
Mm-hmm.
we were all in the world wars, we were all in, like our ancestors were around, then
Mm-hmm.
those are things to be like, well, there was probably something that then came from that. Like, did we get out of that? Did our ancestors get out of that unscathed? And for most people, it's a no. And so, if there is like a blaring thing in the past for your family, then that's something that will probably indicate that that could be influencing you now.
Yeah, these are pretty good indicators. Like diseases are the most like in your face, let's say, more physical signs for you to see, especially if something that you had in generations. For me, it was like from my father's side, there were a lot of things that were really tough, like suicidal tendencies, and mental health disorders. So for me, it's always a sign that to ask my clients in every session, in the first session, what are some previous past familial situations, diseases, context, so we can track like some cycles that are coming from this. And if you have these things, it's really good to be even more aware towards those tendencies. Like I knew from when I was little that from my father's side there was this tendency towards mental health disorders. So I was like asking my mother at 14 years old, please get me to a therapist because I feel I have like a depression or something like that. So it's really good to be aware if you have like a pattern that is repeating on one of your parents' sides or in your previous family, like generations. And as you said, like stuckness, feeling stuck, feeling like something is not, you don't feel like yourself. That's what I realized. Like after I did this work, I started to be more authentic, to feel more like me, to feel more like at home with in my body and with myself. Until that point, I had like a heaviness on my shoulders, and it's different for everybody. As you said, for some people it may be like a tightness in your chest that you feel and you cannot release it no matter what you try. You can see it in your body as well as a like a tension or an ache or a sensation that's different than you should be feeling in a normal way, let's say. And how can we heal these things that are passed down from our families? What are some modalities that you recommend or that you work with your clients around ancestral healing?
Yeah, great question. The ultimate is just acknowledging what happened, in the past, and acknowledging like what you feel and being able to differentiate between what is yours and what's not, but like acknowledging and being witness to those things, because those traumas like repeat generationally and then are like, oh, like all twisted within like our energetics because they want to be seen, you know
Mm.
and so that witnessing, that seeing, that acknowledgement is the way, like it is the path. Now, how to get to that, because it's like, well, I might not know what that thing is, or how do
Mm-hmm.
I differentiate, or, like all those pieces. And that's where all these other modalities to kind of get to that place come in. And as you said, I have the ancestral healing and connection course that goes in, that has all of these different approaches in for healing and then accessing the treasures. But some of those where they originate would be family constellation work, which is in most major cities around the world. I can't vouch for every practitioner, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic modality to begin to see you and then see what isn't you. That's it. It's just phenomenal. And that was like when I started within my early 20s. And then there's a bunch of other things. I mean, I studied with the Toltec tradition, the ancient Mexican tradition that is very interwoven with ancestors, right? Most cultures around the world, uh, the ancestor concept is, there's literal temples outside their houses. Like that's how big of a thing they know that it is.
Wow.
All through Asia, through Central America, like it's just a thing. And in the West, we're just like, there's a creepy ancestor on my wall in my grandma's house, and that's about it. Like there
Yeah.
isn't much to that. And so, yeah, I studied with that Mexican culture to like understand kind of like that deeper healing process. And that can be looked into too. And of course, like whatever your particular cultural heritage and lineages, there's probably modalities specific to that, or like people working specifically with that lineage, which is really cool, because once you start like to tap into like the flavor of that and the mess of it, and also like the beauty of it, like that has its own. So yeah, and I think just starting, I mean, with yourself and like sitting down in meditation and saying, okay, like I'm ready. I'm ready to look. I'm ready to see. I'm ready to differentiate. Whatever it is, let's do this, ancestors. And like opening the invitation, and asking, and that can start to come through maybe in that meditation or in dream time, or the path of how that can be revealed to you, like all of a sudden your mom calls and starts telling you these stories.
Mm-hmm.
So just really inviting the resolution, inviting what you need to know, what is relevant into your life, and that can include calling your family members and starting to understand more about the past, and that'll start to stir things up, but in a good way, because we
Yeah.
need to look and see what's in that pot, to see what we want to do with it.
Yeah, like I learned this thing that even though have asking about your ancestor is like a sign of honoring them and getting access to their gifts and knowledge, and even a simple technique like asking before you're going to sleep, like your ancestors, like, do you have something to share with me? Do I have, like, do I need to work on something? Do I need to release something for you? Do anything that's like bothering you, you can ask them. And I like I connected with them through my dreams. I connected through them in meditation, as you said. And be patient, because every time I did the ancestral hypnosis with my clients as well, when I guided them, for some of them, their ancestors were like all of them surrounding them from the beginning. They were just waiting for them to make this call and, show them their gifts and talk with them. And for them was like, they couldn't see the faces, they couldn't see who they are, they couldn't have access to them from the first session. And it depends on each one of us, of our resistances, of our fear, so if you start this journey, it's a journey that you need to have a little bit of patience in the beginning, because it's like, if you're making a friend, is like, it's not like you're making a friend from the first date, like, it needs a while for you to connect. So it's the same with your ancestor. It may need a while until you can get into this deeper space with them, so you can show them to send them their wisdom and their gifts and so on. So I hope that you received some nuggets of wisdom and some tools that you can start getting deeper with this work, and how our listeners can get deeper with you and with your work. Bridget, what are you offering at the moment? I saw that you also offered retreats, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, I would love to come to one of your retreats. It's like my dream.
Oh, I hope so too. Where are you living right now?
In Europe, I live.
Well, I'll probably do one next summer in Europe.
Wow, I would love that, because coming to US only for a retreat would be like too like complicated, from on the side, being on the other side of the earth, basically.
Totally. Yeah. I have a women's one in Sedona, Arizona next spring, and then pending Earth human situations. I usually do them every year in Europe. So probably next
Yeah,
summer. Yeah, probably next summer in Europe,
cool.
2022. And so, yeah, doing retreats. And then I have my online membership that's just like always constantly going with weekly live calls where like we're always doing meditations and processes and connecting and all these different things. And then in October, because it's the Samhain, thinning of the veil, time with the ancestors, I always do my course live. So I have live calls so that, if there's particular questions that people have, like we can really work on it and like use that energy together.
Ah, cool. Didn't
Yeah,
know that every October you're doing the course live. I thought it's pre-recorded.
it is pre-recorded, and I just add every year, like just anyone that's in it, even from 5 years ago. It's like, okay, like we're gonna like
Ah,
come back, like we're gonna do some live calls and new exercises. I'm always putting new things in there because it's this ever evolving, as you just beautifully said, like relationship, you know? Like we're we're
Yeah.
we're remembering, and so there's always more there. So yeah, all of this can be found on my website, which is my name, Bridget Nielsen, which the spelling's a little precarious, so you'll have to see what she puts here. But yeah,
Yeah, fortunately, I will leave all the links, included to the course, to the retreats, to your website as well, to your Instagram, like to your Pinterest. I will leave all the links because you have different content on everywhere, and it depends if you're more visual or more auditive, for you to choose the best, to deeper into this work. And I really hope, like this October, to be live with you in this group. Like I would love that. And I will, when it will start?
October 1st. I mean,
October
yes,
1st.
like so many, lots, because there's so much content in there, is pre recorded, but the live calls will be most of the weekends in October. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Great. Great. So if you're listening to us and you want to join us this October, I'm sure going to be there because I had this course on my bookmarks and I was like, just waiting. But I think my intuition or my ancestors told me to wait to get it live with you. So that's something really cool. I love this work so much. And you are doing like such a big awakening through everything that you're sharing in the world, and building, healing past generations, building new generations. It's amazing what you're doing in this work, in this world. And we are really grateful for you to listening to our talk today. We hope we get something really useful in this deep work with healing your ancestors. And do you have any thought for closure, Bridget, before we get off?
I mean, if you listened to this whole thing, like there's a reason, and also this, like, let this, pay attention. I guess, like, pay attention the rest of your day. Pay attention to, yeah, your dreams tonight. Ask, because we opened the portal for you. So, like, join that, like, wave and see how this kind of new possible information and, like, approach wants to be seen and to be known, like, in your life and in this developing of your relationship with your ancestors.
Ooh, opening portals. I love that so much. It sounds amazing. Thank you, Bridget, for being with us and sharing your wisdom. And thank you. Thanks to our listeners for listening to us. And I will see you on the next episode. Bye.
You're so welcome.